Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a really fascinating, highly structured look at an experience that is just universally relatable, yet incredibly stressful, and entirely confined to the human mind. We're going to dissect the anatomy of an escalating stress dream. You know the exact kind of dream I'm talking about, right? The one where absolutely nothing goes your way, where the rules of reality bend just to make your life harder, and where literally every single decision you make somehow plunges you deeper into a chaotic labyrinth of your own making. Through our breakdown today, we are going step by step through a documented dream narrative to see exactly how the subconscious mind meticulously constructs a nightmare out of pure, unadulterated anxiety.
Seriously, have you ever had one of those nights where your own brain just seems determined to put you through the ringer? Our source material today provides a perfect, almost cinematic example of what we're going to call the escalating tension arc. We're going to watch how a baseline level of nervousness slowly, agonizingly compounds into utter panic, exposing how our brains seem to penalize us for avoiding conflict in our waking lives. We'll be following a narrator who starts with a simple, kind of nostalgic premise, only to have it completely warp into a surreal gauntlet of interpersonal and environmental stress.
Okay, let's dive into this setup. The premise here is deceivingly innocent, a date with a middle school crush. Our narrator finds themselves in a bustling environment, sort of blurring the lines between a school and a busy office, because, well, dreams love to do that. But right away, the foundation of anxiety is laid down. The narrator is simply too nervous to face this date alone. So what's their solution? They secretly invite a childhood friend to tag along. They don't even tell the crush. It's a sneaky, totally panic-induced backup plan that perfectly sets the stage for the massive communication breakdown that's about to follow.
Now, the dreamer's mounting negligence is what sparks the real conflict here. The dreamer is distracted, busy talking to other people, completely ignoring their phone. We see a missed call at 10:50 a.m., then another at 11:50 a.m., finally at 12:10 p.m., right in the middle of a class, the phone rings for a third time. The frequency of these poorly timed calls really starts to escalate the anxiety. The narrator, whispering into the phone during a lecture, is already playing defense. The crush on the other end is furious, demanding to know why they aren't answering and asking point blank if the narrator is bringing anyone along.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact moment the dream violently pivots. The narrator confesses to bringing their childhood friend, probably expecting some understanding. Instead, they get hit with this incredibly cold, jarring response: "I hate that person." Ouch, right? The narrator had remembered this crush as an elegant, gentle middle schooler, but here the subconscious projects a harsh, abrasive, and highly demanding personality. This sharp contrast completely shatters the narrator's expectations and cranks the awkwardness all the way up to a 10.
Look at how this interpersonal tension just snowballs. The narrator, feeling super obligated, tells friend number one about the crush's harsh comment, and, understandably, friend number one completely backs out. So our panic narrator desperately recruits a second old friend, but when they run this backup plan past the crush, she complains that this second friend has an even worse personality. The stress is compounding beautifully here. Despite the relentless complaining from the crush, the narrator just pushes forward out of pure momentum, obligation, and sheer nervousness, dragging this unbothered second friend along to the destination anyway.
Well, the destination is suddenly revealed to be the airport. But to get there, the dream violently shifts gears from interpersonal stress to downright bizarre environmental stress. En route, they encounter this old, strange souvenir-style shrine, but the whole place is ruined. The entrance is flanked by glass showcases containing lion or guardian dog statues, but the cases are flooded waist-high with thick, gross mud, looking exactly like the aftermath of a terrible flood.
Now, what's really interesting here is the completely surreal dream physics at play. Look at the contrast. The friend is walking on the ground. Sure, it's muddy, but he's walking totally normally. The narrator, however, they physically cannot touch the ground. They are floating horizontally in midair, being pulled toward the building by an oppressive heavy gravity, forced to crawl through the air on all fours like they're floating in outer space. They literally have to double jump just to fight the gravity and move forward. It's a classic physical manifestation of feeling stuck and overwhelmed. It's a direct mirror of those waking life moments where you feel like every single step forward requires monumental effort.
They finally escape the mud and arrive at a grand, incredibly intimidating airport, but the stakes are raised yet again. We learn the narrator has a deep fear of flying and has actually never even been on a plane. As they're staring up at this daunting staircase leading to the gates, the crush calls again. She announces, totally out of nowhere, that she's already booked the tickets. The narrator begs her not to rush things because of their anxiety, but she completely dismisses it. At this point, the narrator is entirely stripped of control over their own journey. They enter a massive, plaza-like space and find an information center with a giant 40-inch monitor displaying boarding numbers. And the narrator's number is this: 1,496. I really want to pause on this number for a second because it captures dream logic so perfectly. It feels intensely significant to the dreamer. It's specific, it's large, and it carries the massive weight of a looming obligation. Yet, practically speaking, it is utterly useless in actually helping them figure out where to go.
Let's move to the next part and see how this builds a feeling of absolute helplessness. The narrator asks the receptionist for directions. She tells them that with a number that high, they are in the back. But what does the back even mean in a sprawling maze-like airport? The narrator steps out of the immediate doors, completely lost. When they rush back to ask for clarification, the receptionist just shouts these exact, maddening instructions. Go south. Just go outside and keep walking south.
Following these ridiculous instructions to the letter, the narrator steps through the doors only to find themselves outside on a completely normal, everyday city street. The airport is walled off to their right, planes are visible way off in the distant background, completely inaccessible. The directions were a total trap. The frustration is breathless here. They realize they aren't even inside the actual airport yet, and the clock is relentlessly ticking down toward departure. As the narrator frantically tries to re-enter the building, we get this brilliantly absurd moment. The famous Japanese comedian and filmmaker Beat Takeshi casually strolls out of the airport entrance and just heads home. It is a completely random, surreal cameo that serves absolutely zero narrative purpose. But it provides an excellent clinical comedic contrast to our narrator's skyrocketing heart rate and pure panic.
We are now hitting the absolute climax of this stress dream. Time is up. The flight is literally leaving. Abandoning all the confusing directions, the narrator forces their way past the entrance. And, in a jarring cut of pure dream logic, they suddenly materialize directly inside the airplane cabin. But the relief? Non-existent. Because immediately, the friend says, "I'm heading to my seat," and just walks away, completely abandoning our narrator in this crowded, terrifying metal tube.
As the narrator stands there totally panicked, they hear a voice. They realize their phone has been in their pocket, connected to the crush this entire time. They lift the phone and tentatively say hello, only to be met with this furious response. "Were you not listening? What were you doing?" The crush has been talking to empty air for who knows how long, and her transformation from a gentle memory into a ruthless, angry antagonist is officially complete. The narrator, in a really pathetic bid to salvage the situation and ease the tension, desperately tries to crack jokes over the phone. They're trying to lighten the mood. But the crush is having absolutely none of it. She remains entirely unamused, coldly stating that if they talk this much on the phone, they'll have nothing to talk about when they actually meet. It's the final emotional straw. The narrator realizes they don't even want to go on this date anymore. The sheer stress has completely eclipsed any lingering affection. Yet they are still trapped on this plane. They're wandering the aisles, desperately looking for seat 1496, but they just can't find it. The dream outright refuses to give them an out. Breathless, utterly defeated, and in a state of absolute peaking panic, the narrator simply gives up. They collapse into a random empty seat, hoping against hope that they can just hide there until it's all over.
But the subconscious always demands its toll, doesn't it? A moment later, a stranger walks up to the narrator. The stranger looks down and delivers this quiet, utterly devastating final blow. That's my seat. It is the ultimate moment of being caught, of having no escape, of total failure. This single, crushing sentence pushes the narrator's panic past its absolute limit, finally snapping them awake from the nightmare.
So, the crucial point is this: what is our brain actually doing here? We've tracked this incredible visual journey, from missed calls to floating through mud, from impossible airport directions to the final humiliation of taking someone else's seat. The narrative leaves us with a profound question. Why does our subconscious mind love to build these absurd, inescapable obstacle courses? Actually, maybe it's a way for our brains to safely process waking anxieties, testing our limits in a simulated environment. The next time you find yourself crawling through zero-gravity mud in your sleep, ask yourself, what waking problem is your brain trying to force you to solve? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope your sleep tonight is significantly more relaxing than this.